Good morning.
Good morning.
A Tunisian man named Mohamed Bouazizi made a living out of selling fruits and vegetables. Despite having a college degree, he found himself as a street vendor because of a high degree of unemployment in his country. One day, while trying to sell his produce, a police officer stopped him and asked to see his permit for selling the food on the street. Upon his failure to produce a permit, the officer slapped him and spat in his face and confiscated his cart. Unable to bear the humiliation, Bouazizi went to the governor's office demanding the return of his cart. Being refused, as a sign of protest and helplessness, he lit himself on fire in the middle of a busy intersection. Angered by this, his friends and relatives began to protest. And within hours, much of the community had joined in. The protest grew from a local to a national level, and within 10 days, the Tunisian president, Ben Ali, ruler for 23 years, was forced to resign and flee the country. Inspired by this, protesters took to the streets of Egypt, and within 2 weeks, achieved the ouster of President Hosni Mubarak, putting an end to his 30-year rule. Subsequently, protests followed in several other Arab countries, ranging from Libya, which saw its leader Muammar Gaddafi killed, Syria, where unrest still prevails, and Bahrain, to name a few. This upheaval was later coined the Arab Spring. In this story, we are meant to consider for a moment the potentially enormous and often unintended consequences of seemingly insignificant actions. The story is constructed to lead us all to deduce that if a police officer had not struck Bouazizi, then Ben Ali, Mubarak, and Gaddafi may still be in power. This phenomenon of connecting seemingly distant events through a cause and effect chain is referred to by many as the butterfly effect. You may have heard the description. A butterfly flaps its wings in California, triggering an avalanche somewhere in the Swiss Alps. Other famous examples of this include the story of Hitler's rejection from art school in Vienna and the arrival of bubonic plague to European shores in the 14th century. While it is always fascinating to consider these great historical what-ifs, I am hoping to offer you a way of personalizing these considerations. What if, for a moment, we stop and consider the role that each of us plays in the lives of those to our left and to our right? In our rows, what about everyone else in the room? How significant is our impact? Can you imagine for a moment how your actions might create ripples in the lives of others? You might be the butterfly to your neighbor's avalanche. How do we measure that impact? In some ways, this sort of calculation might be impossible. But despite its elusive quality, I don't want us to underestimate its potential significance. Hopefully, you skeptics in the room can suspend disbelief and imagine that you are unknowingly and unwittingly acting in ways that are shaping your future and the futures of those around you. This is perhaps most obvious in the relationship between best friends or a student and an advisor, but it may be just as important between relative strangers. There is a school of philosophy known as determinism, big word I know, and my crude interpretation of determinism would lead me to describe it thusly. The seeds of future events are sown in the past. This leads me to the conclusion that my actions have an impact on my future and the futures of those around me. Let me offer an example shared by many of my colleagues in the teaching profession. One of my motivations for becoming a teacher was the hope that I could make a positive impact on your futures. I believe this is possible because there were many adults who were influential in my life, including teachers, coaches, and mentors from my past. In this way, it could be argued that I am here in part because of the actions and guidance and care of people with names like Mr. Morrison, Coach Brown, and Mrs. Hamilton, to name only a few. I am also here, as in at Salisbury at this very moment, because of a variety of other smaller and less discernible causes. As I was nearing my college graduation, I was still unsure of what the next step in my life should be. I interviewed for jobs in finance and corporate sales, but none of these routes stirred my passion. Almost by chance, I heard that a man named Mr. Flood, many of you might recognize the name as it adorns our athletic center, was going to be in the career office at Williams College. It was late in the year, and many of the available spaces for first-year teachers had already been filled in the months prior. But Mr. Flood worked tirelessly on my behalf to try and open a few doors. I remember the excitement I felt when he phoned to share the news that he had found 3 places that were willing to grant me an interview: Salisbury, Brunswick, and a co-ed school in northeastern Pennsylvania called Wyoming Seminary. The first 2 I was familiar with, but the third was a mystery. Nonetheless, I agreed to make the drive to all 3 places for interviews. Salisbury was my first stop. As many of you know, it is hard to describe the feelings you experience when you have a sense that you have arrived where you belong. The only problem was that Salisbury was unable to offer me a position at that time. After visits to Greenwich, Connecticut, and Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, I found myself with only one job offer. I was excited about the opportunity to teach and coach, but I would have to travel to northeastern Pennsylvania and Wyoming Seminary to do it. I remember feeling a great deal of reservation about leaving New England, and I can still recall almost turning down the offer before saying to myself, "It's only a 1-year commitment, and you'll be free to leave in the spring if it doesn't work out." 7 years later, I was still in Pennsylvania, married, and Mrs. Siff and I were expecting Rowan in a matter of months. Together, we made the decision to search for a new home, and by August, we were packing our belongings into a moving truck and headed back to the hilltop. I believe this is all important because at least a large fraction of the reason why I am here now, right, standing in front of you speaking, is that Salisbury didn't have a job to offer me all those years ago. I can't say for certain, but if I had come directly from college, then who knows if I would still be here. If I had come here or gone to work in corporate sales, I never would have met Mrs. Siff. And I would not have Rowan and Powell to chase through the halls of the first floor of the main building. A college graduate procrastinates on his responsibility to find a job, and 2 children are born. Just before Christmas, I was looking at Instagram, and I came across a post from a former student athlete. While I was at Wyoming Seminary, I was his coach and teacher. The posting was a close-up of 2 young men taken from a larger lacrosse team photo. Sitting next to the young man who had posted the photo was one of his teammates from a very different background. Both were postgraduates, but they were at the school pursuing different athletic passions. They seemed an unlikely pair. And from the beginning of the year, their interactions were polite but inconsequential. On a whim, both decided to play lacrosse for me that spring. I know it's hard to imagine here at Salisbury, but both were welcome on the team despite lacking much formal lacrosse training. During that season, the 2 spent a great deal of time together. And on one of the bus trips to an away game, an idea was born. The 2 began to discuss ideas for a clothing line meant to express a political and social ethos. They went their separate ways for college, but have since reconnected, and they have now launched their own clothing and shoe line. It is called Too True. The willingness to befriend one another in the face of their differences, the discovery of a similar passion in the most unlikely of places. A butterfly flaps its wings, and a clothing line is born. Last spring, while reading a book for one of my classes, I came across this quote in the David Mitchell novel: "Our lives are not our own. We are bound to others, past and present, and by each crime and every kindness we birth our future." I love this quote because it reminds me that we are always impacting those around us, and that we can choose how we treat the people we encounter. This impact flutters imperceptibly through the lives of everyone in this room. Events that seem inconsequential may be viewed many years from now as the day the butterfly flapped its wings. There are occasions in my life when I attempt to reflect honestly about the character I displayed when I was your age. I wish I could say that all those recollections reinforce the self-image of a kind and compassionate person. Alas, this is not the case. Those memories are a mixed bag. Some of them are a source of great pride, while others are downright shameful. I've spent much of my adult life trying to atone for any cruelties I may have perpetrated in my younger years. I don't always reach my goal, but I continue to strive. All I can do is hope that my actions did not create ripples in the lives of others that resulted in sadness or hardship, and strive to ensure that I avoid triggering future avalanches. My hope for all of you is that you can find the will and resolve to be a positive force in the lives of those around you. Know that a slap in the face or the offer of a caring shoulder to lean on ripple out in front of you. Do not forget that taking an unexpected detour in life can lead you to exciting new adventures. Know that the present is pregnant with the future. Please take care to be kind, be of good counsel, and take care of one another. I will leave you with the Edwin Markham quote that hangs outside my classroom. There is a destiny that makes us brothers. No one goes his way alone. All that we send into the lives of others comes back into our own. Thank you.